Welcome to a world where DIY and firepower collide. This is Edge, where we craft the extraordinary out of the ordinary. Now, my friends over at Every Gun Part found out that I had this 1911 frame that I started 5 years ago and never actually finished. So they nudged me a little bit in the right direction. We're going to take this kit and my old frame and we're going to make something really cool. Lock in and load up, because today we're going to take the classic, mix it with a little bit of modern, and make the modern classic.
So about a month ago, YouTube made it perfectly clear that they don't appreciate a lot of my build content. Actually, they don't like any of my build content. So I know that I'm going to hear some rumbling about this, but I'm sorry, I had to cut the video for YouTube. And it's really against YouTube's policies to direct you to the video to show you how to build things. So unfortunately, you're not going to see the whole video here on YouTube. Hear that again? There's that rumbling.
So now that I have the plunger installed, there's one other frame component that I'm going to save for later, and that's the ejector. I don't like to do ejectors now because there's a lot of fitting that I may have to do. I just don't know that yet. I want to make sure that my barrel and my slide fit onto my frame, and I don't want to fight the ejector getting it done, because there may be some modifications I'll need to make, and I really don't want to have to fight the ejector to do that. For this, I'm going to need my slide, my barrel, my guide rod and spring, my barrel bushing, slide stop, and guide rod cap. So from here, I'm just going to take a knife and carefully cut these open, because I don't want to scratch up the part.
Just can't figure out where that rumbling's coming from.
There's no fitting that I need to do here. Now I'm going to cut open the rest of my pieces to see how well my barrel locks up. And I really like the blister packaging that Every Gun Part does, because it keeps all the parts organized until I need them. Now these parts are definitely used, but that's not a big deal, because I'm going to have to clean them up, and I'm going to sandblast and Cerakote anyway.
Just can't figure out where that rumbling's coming from.
So what I'm seeing here is I'm having a little bit of problem with lockup, which is not uncommon with 1911s, especially when you're moving parts from one 1911 to another. But if I push down in the barrel, you can see that it unlocks every time. This is telling me that I have a problem with the timing of the link. Now remember, this is a 1911, not a Glock. 1911s are a little bit finicky and need a little bit of work. So this is a problem that we're going to need to troubleshoot before we proceed. I took the slide off because I want to see how this barrel interfaces with the frame. I want to see if the barrel is actually sitting in the barrel seat. And what I'm seeing here is that it's not. Now this could be one of two things. Either the link is too long, or there's a problem with the frame. More than likely, it's the link, as the frame looks really good.
You guys hear it too, right?
So now I got my slide back on my frame, and it's unlocking every time. But there's one more thing that we need to check. We need to make sure that the internals are working correctly. And to do this, I'm going to take my slide stop and pull it out just a little bit. And I have it so it hangs. Now you can see here that this is tight, which is normal. But if I put the muzzle of the barrel down onto the bench and push as hard as I can, this should fall. This is telling me that nothing is binding up and it's working fine. If it doesn't fall, there's something wrong with the size of the link. So now it's time to work on the fire controls. And I've got these pins set up so I can see how the sear engages with the hammer to make sure they're going to work before I install them. For this step, I'm going to need the sear, the disconnector, and the hammer. And all I'm doing is making sure that the sear is catching and engaging with the hammer correctly, and that it'll keep it from falling under spring tension from the mainspring. Everything's looking good, so we can install these parts. So now we're going to work on the trigger. And what we're going to do is cut our trigger out.
Here, rumble, 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 rumble.
And not that there was a lot of drag on this trigger before, but now it moves even smoother. So now I can get my sear pin and my hammer pin out. Now both of these are flared, and they go in from the left side to the right side.
I just don't know if I'm going to find that rumble. It just keeps disappearing on me.
So now that I got my internals in and everything is testing out okay, I need to finish this frame off, because you want to test everything one piece at a time. So that way if there's a problem, it's way easier to troubleshoot.
It's cold outside. Maybe I can find that rumbling outside.
And now we have a completed pistol. And my card from Every Gun Part is now empty. What's better yet is that this gun has passed all of its checks, and it even fires. Now the frame needs to be refinished because it's just bare steel. But this frame has a smooth front strap, which is just not good enough. And the back part of the frame where it meets the slide is a little rough and needs to be smoothed out. Now it's nice that we have a slide stop and an ambidextrous safety, but I'm going to upgrade those because I want some oversized ones because I have big hands. So let's get to work on taking the ordinary to the extraordinary.
That's disappointing. I just couldn't find that rumble outside.
Now that the checkering's done, there's a couple of things we want to do to keep this from looking like a Frankenstein. I'm going to blend the slide into the frame because there's a couple of areas that just don't look right. First of all, we have some of the frame rails sticking out past the slide, plus our ejector is not long enough to go all the way back to the frame rail. So we're just going to smooth all this out to make it one constant flow. The second thing that we're going to look at is the beaver tail. It looks fine, but there's just some areas that just don't transition quite right. And since we're building a custom gun, we want to make sure all these areas are addressed.
Hold on a sec. No, that's not the rumble I was looking for.
Range day can always be a little nerve-wracking. After all, we're finding out how good of a job we did. The first few mags were a little on the rough side. The gun didn't like to come all the way back in the battery. Generally needed just a little bit of help from my thumb to push the slide back in the battery, and the gun worked fine. After a quick cleaning at the range, the gun smoothed right out, and there was no additional problems. So I'm out in the spray booth, and it's time to shoot some Cerakote. Now I've got all the parts sandblasted, soaked, gassed out, all that neat stuff. They're all prepped up and ready to go. Now, since we're building the Modern Classic, what other colors would we use? We have blue. We've got red. Getting ready to mix the white. That's right, we're doing red, white, and blue. So I like to do my lighter colors before my darker colors. I don't know why, it's just the way it is. So let me mix up some white, shoot the white parts, get them into the oven, and then start cleaning up and do all my other colors. So we got it all Cerakoted and we got some grips on it. Now I did a poll on my YouTube community tab and you guys voted for Lady Liberty. So that's what we're going with on this build. So I did a couple of upgrades on this pistol from what I got from every gun part. And I put an oversized slide stop as well as an oversized safety and a Wilson Combat mag well that I bought off of eBay. This has been a really fun build. 1911s are a little tricky to work on, but not that bad when you know what you're doing. Now, some people on social media have said that this looks a little like a toy, but I don't care. I think it looks good, and it's kind of fun to do the whole red, white, and blue theme. So drop some comments down below of what you think.
So normally we'd take this thing out and shoot it, but we have a problem. It's winter here in Montana, and I didn't beat the storm that came in that dumped a bunch of snow, and conditions are just too bad to get out there and shoot this. And of course, I'm going to be traveling for the next couple of weeks, and, well, I'm just not going to be able to get out to the range and shoot this and release this video in a timely manner. So you're just going to have to check out my social media, and it's the Rogue Banshee Media on Instagram or the Rogue Banshee on just about everything else to see this gun in action. Thanks for watching. Hope you're staying safe out there, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Oh, hey, you're still here? I know what you're looking for. Here it is. What's better yet? What's better yet is that this gun has passed all its checks. What's better yet is that this gun has passed all of its checks, and it even fires.
I think that rumble's getting closer.
I want to make sure that my barrel and my slide fit this receiver, because there may be some modifications I'll need to make, and I really don't want to have to fight the ejector to do that. Now these parts are definitely used. Now, these parts are definitely used, but that's not a bad thing. We're going to clean it up anyway. Now, these parts are definitely used. But that's not a big deal. Because I'm going to have to clean them up, and I'm going to sandblast and Cerakote anyway. Now, the full video is almost 16 minutes long, so it gives you an idea of how much content you actually missed.